Right. My name is Rich Schmidt. I'm here at the Black Walnut Inn in Dundee with Ryan Hannaford. It's July 28th, 2020. Ryan, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
First question for you, most important question for our purposes, is why grapes? Why wine?
I think the overall challenge of it is awesome. I like those challenges. It's also I started two sides of my family. My grandparents and that they had they owned a country club. Now it wasn't fancy. Don't worry. Didn't come from money, that's for sure. But it was really cool that my mum's side of the family, who I was very close with, we had, my dad was the manager, my pop was the owner with my nana, and, I had mum as the secretary, her sister or my auntie was, behind the scenes, the chef was my uncle, and, my other uncle was a barman, and it was kind of like really, I always sometimes refer to it as like an Italian kind of thing. So it was really cool, and my sister was a waitress. I was the dish pig. It was so it was really cool, and so I always grew up with that. It was a fine dining establishment as well. So having that was, I think, a really big part of my life. I think, so while all the kids were playing at school, for holidays and vacations, I was working, grinding away, and so on and whatnot. We also, parents had a citrus property. It was relatively small. I think it was 30 hectares. So it was a good size, and it was a citrus. So, and then as you grew, you bounced between the two, and from tractors and farming and being outdoors and the challenges of that. And, it was really great. Like, it was such a great experience, and a really good upbringing to sort of be, two completely different polar opposite ends of some industries. And I sort of as I grew with that, it come to me, but it didn't come to me too a lot later, because I was a bit of a naughty kid at school. Those who know me well pretty much can see that straight away. So I actually got sent to boarding school in Adelaide. So it was kind of interesting. Then so I got moved up to Adelaide, and Adelaide's quite a food scene and stuff like that too. From Adelaide, I did, my high school, and after that I took, 5 years off. I travelled the world and tried to figure out what the hell am I going to do, So, and it's funny because I actually met my girlfriend and my wife when I was travelling through Europe and whatever, and it was great, and it took me 5 years to try to figure out what I really wanted, and then I started thinking. I love the farming. I love the challenges. I love, trying to understand, the farming aspect. And it's oranges, right? I mean, it's nothing, it's an orange, right? I mean, there's a few things that, you have to try to prevent or encourage and stuff like that. And then you had the hospitality side that I was doing a lot of waitering, serving and stuff like that too. And all through my years of traveling, I lived in Canada, I was serving there, I was doing always in the hospitality industry. So, and then, obviously with that, wine came in, and I did quite a few harvests over in Western Australia, and it was just such a unique challenge, and when I started going into the grape side of things, it was like, hey, so you see that you bring these things up, these vines up, and at the end you make it into wine and you get critiqued, it's kind of cool, right? It's not just like, here, have an orange, or so that was just really cool, and so and it's just fantastic for where I'm now, because now I'm doing both, so really in the vineyard and now making our own wines. I think that's, and I put a lot of pressure on myself just because I'm very competitive with myself. Always want to try to be better and stuff like that. So I think it's kind of why I got into wine. You know, it's you hit so many different elements, and you know, on that you have the social side of things, where it's, you know, everyone's laughing, having a good time. It's a great experience, and you know, meeting great people, and yeah, it's a good thing.
So at what point in your travels did that start to become something you thought about? And then when you decided farming grapes sounded interesting, where did you mentioned Western Australia? So where did you head first? Say that again, sorry? At what point, like, did farming grapes sort of become something you were interested in, and where did you start? How did you kind of enter into the industry?
Oh, well, I think the grapes, my brother-in-law, he has, he was a winemaker over in Western Australia. And, you know, part of my, you know, getting rid of my silly beans, you know, I drove over across the Nullarbor and with my sister actually, and landed, and, you know, he sort of, hey, do a harvest with us and whatever. So it was, that was when I first started playing with grapes. But actually, funny enough, when I was very little, I had, you know, my family friends, I had to help out, you know, when it was harvest time in the Riverland, and that's where I'm from, and it's a very bulk industry, right? And I remember, I don't think I was 10 years old, but my job, all the grapes got picked into big trucks, right? And these trucks just dumped it into a massive hopper, right? And my job as a little kid was to climb up and put water in the back of the truck to make it heavy. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, you know, like, and now I look back, I said, you cheeky buggers, you know, like, what? So that was my first experience. Not a very good one, not one I like to brag about, but it's pretty funny. Yeah, but when I went to West Australia, that's when I, you know, started, you know, I was harvesting, so we were on mechanical harvesters, and, you know, that was like in 2000, early 2000s, and actually, it was crazy. My first time driving a harvester in there was, I was to literally dump, because the wine market just went really bad. And my job was to train on that harvesting machine to dump grapes on the ground. And it was like 100 and something ton I did. You know, that's my training experience. But, you know, and with my brother-in-law, Jono, it was kind of interesting, you know, it was kind of a big part of all of this. And, you know, I was like, hey, why would you want to get in this industry? You go, hey, sometimes the best time to be in an industry is at the worst time. And that probably stuck with me for a long time. And I was like, you know, that's a good point. And, but, you know, since then, you know, after that, you know, that's when I traveled around, and, you know, that's when, you know, things, you know, seeing different cultures, and, being with different languages, and being with different people, and was, you know, everything came together, and you know, it took me 5 years, but so then, you know, I was in Toronto, because at that point I was with my my wife now, and I couldn't get into America, so I lived up there, and you know, so you know, I was actually a rickshaw driver for a while, funny enough, but so, you know, I got by, right? Yeah, and then I applied in Toronto for a mature age student at Adelaide University, which I certainly wasn't mature, but I got in somehow. So that was kind of where it all started, and then, you know, I did my time there, and there was an option of where I could have gone to another university, but, you know, you work and then you studied online and stuff like that. But you know, again, I went back to my brother-in-law, and he's like, look, you know, it's just better, just get it done, you know, like, and then your university life is kind of interesting and fun, and you meet new people, and people that you're always with, and you know what, like, a couple of those guys that I went with the university with, you know, my groomsmen, my wedding, you know, so it's really cool. That we're very, very, very close. So yeah, that's kind of where things landed out.
Tell me about the process of actually learning what you do, of learning the skill. Was it mostly book taught? Was it mostly reading? Was it mostly just doing? How did you kind of acquire the skill, and how did you sort of figure out what you wanted to do with it?
You know, I think, you know, there is a lot to be said for university, even though I probably don't say that out loud much. But you know, it teaches you to think in a different in a different way on how to solve problems. Sometimes I was like, am I even learning anything here? But you actually are. And so that's an important part, and it's Adelaide was a very scientific university, and I'm definitely not a scientific guy, if you can tell. And then once you start, working on vineyard, and then when things start becoming, your responsibility, talking to people and being with people who know, from winemakers to vineyard managers and stuff like that in the valley, and your experiences, and that's a huge part of it, a huge part, because there's something to be said about learning something in a book or whatever, and then actually physically doing it, and being responsible, and you have to try to go to sleep at night, right now, you're always worried about mildew or something like that, cropping levels. But I think over time you get more and more comfortable, I guess, and I think that's really valuable, and that experience. And when you see these vineyard managers or winemakers that have been Christum and who've been around for so long, God, it's just really cool to know the ins and outs of everything, your wines, your vineyards, is really, really cool. And being connected with great people. I was fortunate enough to work for some good companies. Well, great winemaking, and they were good company. I learned a lot. I worked with Dominique Lafont, who was just a mentor to me. He was just a great bloke, just solid. I learned a lot, and and with people surrounding him and my close friends, and it's funny enough, we all kind of worked for the same person at one point. The Ken Paolo's, the Tomas, Will Hamilton, all the whole crew, right? We talk a lot. We're always driven to be better and better. And I've changed the ways I farm a lot, trying to adapt to the climate as well. And and one thing I always talk to our crew is that, look, guys, we're not growing grapes. We're making wine. Don't think of it like that. Sometimes the prettiest cluster or the prettiest vineyard, the greener vineyard, is not going to make the best wine, right? So let's try to understand, work backwards and try to go that way.
So how did you get to Oregon? What brought you here, and what sort of intrigued you about being in Oregon?
Oregon actually came when I was at university. Actually, my very close friends, we all worked in a bottle shop, as well as I did vineyard work and stuff like that too. But had to pay the bills, and when you start buying Burgundies when you're in university with no money, you kind of look elsewhere, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a fascination to me with Chardonnay and Pinot. I think they're one of the hardest to grow, and so that's just my inner competition of myself of, God, I can do this. I can do, and besides not having any money and really liking Pinot and Chardonnay, and Burgundies was just really cool. We looked elsewhere, and of course, New Zealand, and that didn't interest me as much, and we started bring some wine over from America and Oregon, and I'll never forget, it was Christum, the Mount Jefferson, and that was we popped it open at work, and we're like, shit, this is really good. This is really good. And so then we go back, we work through the price points, and it was like, this is it. There's something here. There's something here, and and sure, with my mind too. My wife is American, and but she's actually from DC, so it was a opposite side of the thing. So then, we looked more and more. We purchased more wines coming in, and then at the end of my degree, I was like, you know what? Let's go. Let's get over there. I really believe in this. There is something unique and special about this area. This is just beautiful. The tannin structure, the fruit. Oregon fruit. It's very beautiful. And so, yeah, in fact, I actually had to do, in order to get to the US with my, to get a visa, I had to come over here before my degree finished and apply, and it was just crazy. So I had to actually do my final exams over in Washington, DC. And that was funny. But we did it, and then I lived with my in-laws, well, my girlfriend's mum and dad at that time, and they're just wonderful, crazy. They're crazy. Like, he's a military guy, colonel. Her mum used to work for Pan Am, and she's just like, they're just wonderful people. Like, they're just I really enjoy hanging out with them. But they're a lot, right? I was like, man. I think I was like living there 2 months, sort of thing, and there's only so much washing their car or, cleaning their gutters that you can do, and I was like, all right, I'm doing it. I want to go over, I've got to go over to Oregon, I'm going to check it out first. And this was 2009, and so the financial crisis, was pretty sad, and I was like, look, Betsy, my wife says, you stay here and I'll head over there, I'll check it out, and, I'll meet people and see what it's like. And so I flew over here in December, and I was like, oh, shit. This is interesting. But it was really important for me not to get into the industry just yet. I needed to know people. So I was like, because of hospitality background, I went around to restaurants and I wanted to, just get a waiting job or whatever. Oh my gosh, I think I had like 100 resumes, and I had a really good resume of like, serving people. Like, I had I got many certificates in Australia for serving, like silver service and stuff like that, which was, gosh, I wouldn't remember any of that stuff now, but everyone was like, sorry, no, sorry. And it was one guy, and I went to Andina restaurant, and it was really cool actually. Jules, his name was, he was a Kiwi. And he looked at my thing, and meanwhile, because I think they had an opening interviews, it was every Wednesday at whatever time. Anyway, so I was sitting there, and like, I was just talking to the people around me, and they're like, oh, I'm a lawyer, and you can't find a job, and blah, blah, and it was just so, I was like, oh man, I ain't got no chance, And anyway, they called me up, and so I went downstairs with Jules, and he looked at it, and he goes, okay, Ryan, who is the most famous cricket player? I said, shit, Don Bradman. He's all right, you start tonight. So I was like, oh, cool. And I was like, me being classic Australian, I had no money, and I was like, oh, I have no pants. I had, because it was black, uniforms. I was like, shit, Banana Republic. I was like, oh my God, I just spent $80 on like a pair of like slacks, and then some shoes and whatever. So anyway, I busted it back in, and then got a job there, and that was actually really, I mean, everything in life, I think there's a great portion of timing, and it was, and during this, when I was working bussing tables, that's all I did, I just bussed tables, and at home I was researching everyone. Like, it's so funny, like, we moved houses a couple of years ago, and anyway, I had a 1 inch pile of papers that I wrote down everyone in this industry. Like, I was just so determined, and just so I need to understand everything. I need to find them again. But I even went into like the kids, so I got a clear idea, because I was very specific on who I wanted to work with. I think the first gig, especially in a different country and stuff like that, can set you up. And it was funny, like a gentleman walked in, and it was Jim Burnett from Willamette. And I was like, I know this guy because of all my research, and like I'm mental, I'm crazy, And I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta meet him. Anyway, he wasn't even in the area I was in. Anyway, so I just said, oh, bugger it, I'm gonna go down and deliver bread to him, and I knew that. As soon as my accent, and everyone always asks me, oh, where are you from or whatever, and sure enough it hit. And he goes, well, what are you doing here? And I told him the story. I believe in this area. I'm obsessed with it, and I'm here to learn, and I want to try to get a job and whatever. And he's like, he gave me his business card. Ryan, you come see me. And so I went down and saw him, and he already had someone for the job, but he was like, look, you need to get in touch with this guy, Sterling Fox, and and there was Alan Holstein, and all the the classics. And so I did that. One thing led to another, and I met Alan, and Alan said, you need to meet Sterling, and I was like, this Sterling guy, and so I met Sterling, and then and I sat down with him, and he was like, look, I do have one job, and it was at Evening Land Vineyards, and I was like, I had no idea, because it was relatively new at that point. I was like, okay, cool. And then so I did my research, and I was like, okay, so they've got Dominic Lafond. That's crazy, and really interesting. So yeah, then I met Isabel Munier, the winemaker there, and we got off really well. And then I think being in the right place at the right time was just really key. And I think there's a huge luck to that too. And so but mind you, I mean, I got to find those papers again, because it was incredible at how much I was driven to know and understand things. And now it's so funny that I can see some of those people, and I'm like, now I know this person really well, but yeah, that went to Evening Land, and then I stayed there for a year. My visa was for a year, and anyway, then they offered me the job to manage the following year, and we did really, really well, and just an amazing crew, like the guys. And ever since then, so half of them stayed. I don't know why they wanted to come with me, but maybe they were forced to, I guess. But Rocky is my lead guy, just an amazing person. This guy's got the green thumb, just fantastic. Anyway, so we busted it out there, and I stayed there I think for 5 years, and it was just made some great wines, and I learnt so much, and that's when I met some really key industry people that I know today, and who become really good friends with, and so it was Oregon is just I'm obsessed with it. I just really believe in this area. I think there's so much to offer here, and I think alongside with the Chardonnay and Pinot in general, like, it's challenging to grow, and then you have the Northwest climate, and that's a challenge in itself, and then you get to try those wines from that vintage, and every year is so different, and you're always trying to keep up and trying to do better and understand what to do, what not to change this element, to change that in your farming, whether it's a warm season, dry, wet. And it's so that's kind of where I got into it, and then after that I went to Chapter 24, which was it was an incredible experience, because at that point we had we didn't manage any vineyards, and so I was the viticulturalist, and so I would go out to other vineyards, and a lot of them I inherited because Mikey Etzel was there first, and it was really interesting, and so it was kind of a jump start of, he knew good vineyards, and so I took that in, and so I think I was working with 32 growers, and we had like 80 something blocks and 80 something ferments, and it was a very short time that I learnt a lot, and just dealing with, and these vineyard growers and winemakers were just awesome. Like, I met some really, really great people from all over the valley. I spent a lot of time in my truck driving to and from and whatever, and then just because I'm an idiot, but I was like, nah, I want to farm, I want to do that. And so in 2015, this is when I found this place, Black Walnut, and that was incredible. And at the time, Neil Arts and Karen, who owned that previously, it was hard to sell grapes, and there's not a lot of money in that industry, in just selling it and stuff like that. And on textbook, I was like, I want high elevation. We come off of years like 12, 13. Well, it was warm, but we had problems, right? 14, and there was a trend of getting warmer. So I was like, okay, I want high elevation. I want east facing. I want all these sorts of, things that could be really, really interesting. And then Black Walnut, I mean, we're 950 feet here, and east and south. And so I was like, oh man! And so so we leased it from him, and then I went to another vineyard, and well, actually they reached out to me in Eola Amity, Dubai vineyard. Incredible, just older vines too, which was really cool. 5.5 feet spacing, beautiful, like, awesome. And then another one, Les Stevens around the corner, and Stardance, which is way out in the Coast Ranges. So I started farming all these things, right? And so we've got a lot of grapes now, which was what they wanted. But that was, working every single vineyard was so different, and so it was a very fast track on how much and how quickly I had to learn. Now, whether I did it right or not, and I'm always trying to get better every year. But geez, I learn a lot, and the potential what we have and how different things are here is just incredible.
After all the kind of learning you had done and all the kind of preparation you'd done for Oregon, what was your first impression of Oregon, the vineyards and of the people, of the wine industry specifically?
I think on the vineyard side of things, I think we were undercapitalized. So in Australia, like, our minimum wage is very high, and here it's relatively low, but I've never in my life did I ever see anyone hand hedge a vineyard. I'm like, what in the hell? I was like, this ain't happening, right? And and so and I remember I was with Sterling, and he was showing me the sprayers and the implements and stuff like that, and I was like, man, this is like 1970s in Australia, like we can capitalize, like we can, if we had the money to get over the road stuff and technology and stuff like that, we could really take this to another level. Winemaking side, it was like, in these plastic bins, and there's still so many. I did it last year, and it was just the potential. I was like, if we could do it, if we could have more money into the vineyards to spend on equipment and stuff like that. And the technology, and I learned a lot at Evening Land, because they had some great equipment in there, in the winery. So that was a really big thing, I think. And the fruit expressions and in the wine is just so apparent. Really, really good. And then and it's funny, like now, a lot of people say, there's too much fruit, and how you tone that back, and how, sort of things that you can try to do in the vineyard to make that happen. And at one point I was like, at the beginning of my career here, because maybe working closely with Dominique, like Burgundy, everything's sort of like that. But no, this is damn Oregon, right? And it was actually Dominique was like, no, you're in Oregon, Whereas in my mind was like, no, and it was kind of silly for me to think that, and it's just it's beautiful what we do here. It's incredible. I think it's really world class, and I think we should be so proud of us doing this. We'll see where the future goes with all this, because there's a lot of vines that have just been planted, a lot. And it is like, some people, I guess, may complain or be worried about bigger California guys coming up here, but we need to take some of this fruit, and they do a great job. Like, there's very few bad wines now, like there's so much competition now. Everything's really, really good. Sure, we want to always be better and stuff like that, but yeah.
You talked about how you had sort of your farming practices had progressed pretty quickly as you were learning new things. Tell me about sort of your style of farming as you started, and what changes you've made as you've been in Oregon.
Well, I think one of the big things that we're trying to do right now, even as we speak, is these hot Augusts, like we just came off of two days of 100-degree weather. We get these, and it's common, right? But in organic programs, there's a lot of sulfur usage, and I've tried dialing it back a lot. But we also have these warm nights. We have on one side we have high mildew pressure and stuff like that. and you need to open the canopy. But I feel that we need to protect these clusters a little bit more. Because it's hard. I always say it's like when I was in Australia, like I'm so so pale. My mum says, "Are you right? You look sick," and it's like that with grapes. If you're exposed to it, your skin becomes leathery and really hard. And by opening up the canopies and too much, the grapes will do the same. And they, we had a great example at Seven Springs where we had the hanging trellis, and they're all exposed to the and they made very big meaty wines, and they're good. I mean, it's not my style. I love I love elegance and prettiness and all the stuff that Pinot and Chardonnay do. But so right now I'm trying to determine that sweet spot of giving that enough protection and making sure we have enough airflow and stuff like that. And it's not just there's a lot more to consider. I think like yeasts are a big important game to it. Not spraying as much sulfur as what I used to do. It's effective, but there's other elements of reduction in wine and stuff like that I'm trying to come up in my own mind. When we planted Witness Tree a little bit differently, so where the angle of the sun at August 1st at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so we changed it like 55. We did a few different ones, 55, 45 degrees, northeast, and try to protect it a little bit more. So that's one thing that I'm going. Cultivation is another one. There's a few key people in the industry like Mimi and who's quite anti cultivation. I think there's a lot to be said there, and that's a really interesting thing, and especially in a year like this. Gosh, I think we're going to hedge like 3 times this year. It's an unusual June, I guess. It's great for our young vines though, so I'm not complaining. Dry grown, So, cultivation is something I need to be better at. Looking at, protecting yeast, spraying less. I need to, and we bought a beautiful sprayer that's built by my university. So that technology is there. We did a lot of, this year we did only lateral removal. So, we're trying to really open up the inside as opposed to the outside. It's a lot more expensive. But then, this year we had these leaves, the big leaves this year. And it's like, oh geez, we're gonna have to take a couple of those off as well now. But that's the beauty of Oregon. Everything gets thrown at you, and it's kind of cool to try to figure it out. And you've always got to try to be in front of the game. I think there's lots of, from cover crops and, really trying to find that balance, trying to find that sweet spot. And, when you have these different years, it's always so challenging, which is awesome. And now it's great in terms of, like last year was, I made some wines for 00, which was really cool with Leah Lafon, and that was a lot of fun actually. And the big pots, they're clay pots and stuff. But now it's really focusing. Before I always used to say, like we are making wine, not growing grapes. But now it's like, okay, now everything's in my hands. So I need to be able to make sure this is going to be as epic as what I can make it. And it's kind of cool that I was, we sell the grapes to a lot of other growers, winemakers, and very talented, and previously, so it's kind of good to learn that. But now it's like 100% in my boat, and trying to come up with better ways, or where I failed, what I think I did well with, whether it's small things like cropping levels, or whether it's the cultivation, or whether it's burning, or whether it's a good saying is like farming is legal gambling. So it's kind of, it speaks, there is a bit of luck there, right? So who knows what, next week's going to bring. But so my mindset has changed a lot on how I look into creating our wines, because I'm not a winemaker. I don't like to say that. And bloody winemakers. But I just have so much respect for like John Thomas, and like I think that creating that small, where you have the whole system, in your hands is just unique, and I know it's very rare here, especially there's always that dynamic of the winemaker and the vineyard manager, and they catch up 3 times a year, right? I hate that, and I've never been in a job like that because it's always been quite tight. But this here, it's like, all right, guys, let's hustle, let's do this, and this is the reason why, and trying different things. Like we always do different experiments, whether it's like we'll do a leaf pour or and we'll pick it separately and we'll ferment it differently, similarly, so I can try to understand that. It's become a lot more real now, and before when you were just farming, and everyone's if the wine's amazing, it's the winemaker, right? If the wines didn't go so well, it's the vineyard guy, right? it's just but now we can really start to see this, and I've got so many more years to try to figure it out and to get to where I want to be, I'm so fortunate to be with Rick and Erica, who are the owners here, and they this is the first time I've been with a business that it's owned by a family, like only one family, and they own Black Walnut and they own Witness Tree, and so it's really good to have those 2 different things, and we're making the wine from each, and it's great. It's really good.
Was the plan all along for you to eventually make the wines here? Did that sort of kind of happen naturally? At what point did you go from farmer to farmer/winemaker? Yeah,
well, I think I've always said that. I've always wanted to do that, and there was a few opportunities that I had to have my own wine label and stuff like that. And at the time, it probably didn't make sense, and the partners who I was with didn't make sense. That's exactly what I want, because that's what I believe in, and that's in and let's hope I'm doing good. We'll find out what the wine's say. But so when there was some issues that came up with the business partners beforehand, and they split, and the opportunity was when they sat down and said, "Hey Ryan, look, we want you to farm our grapes and we want you to make our wine, a small amount of wine." And funny enough, we always Rick Miller, who he's just a wonderful. Like, I just got so much respect for him. He goes, "Hey, if it's no good, we just tip it out." I'm like, "All right, okay, right. So you have a lot of confidence in me, huh?" I was like, "Don't forget, I have made wine," so that was a turning point for me, and I was like, absolutely, and working with 00 and their consultant Pierre Millman, he was just incredible, and I hope to work with him again. Just a really very scientific, very matter of fact. And I kind of like that, as much as I'm sort of like, it's very, exact, and I can learn a lot. So I think soon we'll start bringing him in, I guess, as a consultant. But I just right now it's where I'm really, my focus right now is to showcase what this vineyard does, and I've, this is not going to be a big. Big style of wine, and that's not what I want. I mean, I want elegance, I want prettiness, I want to really show what this vineyard does, the fruit expression, the tension, all those factors that excite me. So yeah, I mean, I was very lucky, and I guess, right time, right place. And working with really good people right now, I'm just over the moon. And it's kind of interesting now being at the Black Walnut. Being with guests, we do well, not right now, of course, because of COVID, but I do a lot of wine tasting, a lot of vineyard tours, and we sit in the middle of the vineyard, literally sit down, and we'll drink wine and in the middle. This is going to be the first year. I bottled the rosé a while ago, and you know. You will sit with my friends' wines out in the middle of the vineyard, and so I can't wait till, you know, this time next year when it's just the wines that I made and some others, you know, my friends as well, so we can, you know, do it. I think that's just incredible, having that that experience, that giving guests our undivided attention. That, you know, you can walk the vineyard with you know, whatever you want to call winemaking. You know, I hate that word, but you know, and talk about life. That's what wine is about. You know, to me, I really love that. You know, and gosh, last year, I mean, I just had a baby boy, and God, you know, the amount of times that you know, we'd do a vineyard tour, and you know, all we would talk about is kids, or because a lot of the guests come up, they get away from their kids, and you know, and it's just about life, and then what do, you know, like, and it's just great, and having the guests come up here and get away from life, you know, and just, I mean, this is my office right now, it's beautiful, is really unique, and you know, so and giving them that experience is really cool, and they love it, and you know, they're like, I want to buy. Give it, you know, and I'm like, I don't have anything to sell right now, you know, but you know, give me your email address and we'll do it. And so the rosé is looking great. I'm really super happy with how the rosé is turning out. But yeah, it's really, really cool.
Tell me about getting to know the place, the vineyard here, and obviously you mentioned kind of working at Witness Tree as well. How long does it take you to get to know a place? What are you looking for as you're walking through a vineyard?
Geez, you know, I'd love to think I know the place, you know, and I feel you know, I feel really attached to it. There is a weird connection there. I think there is something, but you know, like I said before, you know, when you're with a vineyard for 20 years or something like that, is special. That's really, really cool. So in the short stages here, I look, you know, from leaf size, leaf color, leaf, you know, how it's growing. You know, that's early stages. How vigorous, not vigorous. What I need to do to make those changes or whatever. Cluster size, you know, there's not much you can do about that. This year's kind of it could be really, really interesting. There's some funky looking clusters throughout the valley, but I think they could. I always like thinking that you know, the years like this, they're just going to have a lot of personality in the wines, and that's another element to what I like to be able to give for our wines. You know, there's, unfortunately, probably for my wife more so, is that, like, so many times, you know, I'd be in the kitchen, right? And she's like, you're not even listening to me. And she is the best person in the world and love her to pieces. But sometimes I just tune out because I'm always thinking about, like, oh, you know, like this, what can I do here differently? What next year? What should I have done, you know? I'm probably a bit too attached to the vineyards, I would say. I think maybe a lot of people would say. So that's a learning, you know, as we go. You know, I feel good where we are now, but I know, you know, time and experience and having more people to critique, friends, and which we all do. We're so sometimes brutally honest, which is the best thing. That's great. We'll see in the future, and hopefully it expresses in all the wines that we make.
So now that you are doing both ends of things, managing the vines and making the wine, what is it about each role that sort of feeds the other role for you in terms of, like, you want to make wines that are a certain way, so what do you do in the vineyard to make sure that the wines you make are that way, and sort of vice versa? Like, how does the whole cycle work for you now that you're in charge of both?
Yeah, I mean, that's that's a great question, and that's something that plays on my mind a lot, especially now when we're soon to go through ripening. You know, like, the first thing, you know, like, you know, elegance. I just love pretty wines. You know, I really do. You know, I love it to go with food. You know, it's one thing. Chase Williams, our chef here, is like, we're just great mates, and we think very similarly, you know, and you know, from acidity in wines and you know, expression and how it pairs together. So, you know, I can't make big wines out of here. I can't do anything. So I really respect the vineyard, because that's my roots, right? My roots is to really respect the vineyard, and so, you know, with that and with hot days and you know, warm night and stuff like that, and you know, less sulfur, and you know, I really want to protect those clusters a bit more every year, maybe more and more so. So you know, so we just have that beautiful fresh fruit as opposed to that leathery skin that, you know, like I was saying before, because that's, you know, that plays a number from color, from that's, you know, that's where all the good stuff is, right? Mm-hmm. You know, tannins and you know, I feel in length in wines, and you know, we had an interesting thing of, like, you know, from you know, because acidity is quite high, I feel, in Oregon, you know, from volcanic soils. So, you know, there is some research with Pierre Millman that, you know, removing, you know, basil leaves and stuff like that at specific times will change these things, because, you know, obviously, you know, acidity in wine is really important, from, you know, sulfur levels and longevity of the wines and stuff like that. So, so all those things play on my mind, and you know, not to mention picking times and you know, how to treat that, so it's fresh, it's beautiful, it's you know, I want electricity in the wine, you know, that's why, you know, I love that. Now, mind you, that, you know, in order to do that, hopefully, you know, we can put them away for a while, right? Because that's another thing that is hard for me in my small little brain, is, you know, we drink wines way too young, and but you know, this is America or the West, right? And it's like, go, you know, we want to, you know, so yeah, there is that level of, because I know that they're going to be drunk and they're going to be sold soon. We only make 500 cases this year, mm-hmm. And this year we might jump up a little bit more, but. You know, then when we go into the winery, you know, I really want to respect everything that we've accomplished in that vineyard, you know, whether I think it was good. I mean, it is what it is at harvest, and we've tried everything to do to get where we need to be, where I think we need to be. And so I don't want to go into the winery and just, you know, I don't want heavy oaks. I don't want to, you know, punch down. It's all everything's pump over, very elegant, very long, very delicate, very clean too, you know. It's kind of funny, like, you show the winery here, it's a little garage, right? It literally is a garage, but you know, insulated, climate control, all I need. You know, so, you know, that's sitting at like 53 degrees right now. It's beautiful, it's great, and it's so clean in there, you know. So those are the things I really want to respect and try to and make that wine to the best designer, and I'm going to get better at that. You know, I need to, you know, I need to get strong on my winemaking skills for sure. But you know, I think there's a lot to be said of what the vineyard actually is, mm-hmm. And working with what you've got, and you know, using what your knowledge and a lot of the basics to winemaking. So yeah, there's a lot in it, you know, and I love the pressure. Don't get me wrong, you know, I'm the worst to criticize myself every time. I should stop probably doing that so much, but it makes me hopefully better. So yeah, full circle is great, and having every little bit of control and stuff like that is just really good, because it's all in your hands, mm-hmm. And that's hard to find these days.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel you're at the point in development where if you taste something in the cellar, you can trace it back to something in the vineyard, or if you see something in the vineyard, you can trace it forward to something in the cellar? Do you feel like you can make those kinds of changes and you have the ability to kind of tweak for the next season?
Yeah, I think I'm at that level now where that I can understand, you know, those certain tweaks in that we did in the vineyard that will go that I can see in the wine. You know, I'm spending a lot more time pulling samples, and so I pull samples, and then I just throw out, you know, like a number for it. So everything's random. So and you know, and every time it's interesting to see, like, I think that's that wine. I think that's why. And by doing it that way, it's kind of like, yeah, this is richer. It's got that more length, you know, and maybe I was thinking maybe I undercropped that. Maybe I should have had more cropping levels, or you know, this vineyard doesn't have any stress that I can see, and even now it looks beautiful, too beautiful sometimes. You know, sometimes picking times it would be is a simpler one, only because you can use the numbers to work that out. Last year didn't really give us anything. It's like, well, we got to chapterlize. We ain't going to get to 13% here. So that was kind of a hard one to do. But I feel that I can look into the wines as I taste and sort of see, I should have done this. I should have done that. Or this is good. We should, you know, amplify. We should do this again. You know, and you know, I think next year I'm not gonna cultivate this vineyard. You know, and I want, you know, I want more expression from tannin profile for that. So I think this vineyard is in warm years, this just does fantastic. It really does, and I think that's the trend. I mean, maybe we're all global warming, I mean, things are happening, right? June was different, whatever. But I think that's the trend, and so, you know, I need to adapt to that, to calibrate as well. Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely one that plays with you a lot. Sometimes too much. My wife will kill me at one point. You're not listening to me. Sorry, I am, but so
like the vineyard is mistress kind of thing. Where I get it.
Yeah, exactly.
What about a year like last year? You talked about last year being different. You coming off a string of fairly similar hot, dry years. Suddenly you have a 2019. So what are the adjustments you had to make last year, and did they work? How did you handle it?
Yeah, I think last year was a year, like, it was a year that was, you know, well, we planted, you know, 144,000 vines, so it was kind of that last year was kind of good for it, right? It was you know, we had some rainfall and stuff like that. You know, I think you know, I think I shouldn't have cultivated this year. I mean, this is just a really wet year, you know, but again, it's legal gambling. But I know these vines can go really well, and so I think my cultivation plan needs to be sharper. And we do a lot of like, you know, when we prune and we know these areas that need more or less, whatever, and we cultivate that little bit, and it could only be 10 feet or whatever, right? We need to be more precise like that. So, you know, we really need to take it from, you know, we do those panel, but, you know, even the vine to vine really thing. And I mean, we're small enough that we can do it and try to get better. And but yeah, I would say, you know, cultivation, I think, is a big one. I think, you know, this year, you know, I've had some growers say, the wines are a little bit reductive, you know, and I love reduction. You know, Pinot, yeah, in my Chardonnays for sure, don't worry, yeah. But for the Pinot and stuff like that, I understand, you know, and sometimes it can be the vintage, sometimes it can be the grower, sometimes, so, you know, and so I've really toned down a lot of my sprays, and then this year it's some good powdery mildew, you know, weather right now, like, and, you know, there's not a lick of sulfur out there for a long time. And you know, so, but, you know, we're using other stuff to try to do that. So that's another element that we're bringing on this year to do.
you mentioned Witness Tree. Tell me about that project and sort of is it starting from scratch, or are you adding on to it? What is Witness Tree going to look like?
Yeah, Witness Tree is a very, I mean, geez, considering like I moved to Oregon because of the next door neighbor, Kristen, and it's kind of how everything comes back. And now I'm like, oh well, and spending a lot of time in the Yola Amities is great, and so it's very special to me out there. It was really sad. So when I purchased it in 2016, the transaction took a long time, and it finished. I think we ended up getting it in July, maybe. I can't remember. And we had beautiful old vines were planted in 82, 84, 83, and it was phylloxera. And so I was like, look guys, I mean, we might as well pick this. It's too late in the season. Because I knew the vines were pretty weak and sad, and and then I think we averaged like 0.6 tons per acre. And I was like, yeah, this is beautiful. And unfortunately, at Seven Springs, we did the same. Like it's sad pulling out this Oregon history, and especially as a bloody Australian, it's like well, I'm sorry, but it doesn't make any financial sense. So yeah, we pulled out 50 acres. We pulled out 50 acres of old vines that cropped. Terrible. But that was funny. There's some Dolcetto. There were some really interesting varieties out there. But the great thing is that now we start all over again. We did a lot of work on that soil. We did a lot of we put down that lower area from drain tiles. So we because being that low elevation, we want to be able to get the best out of it as we can. So we did a lot of improvements. And planted, 2 meters, and like I said, row orientation, from 50 to 45, 55 to try to play around with some things, and then going up the top in the sweet spot it's going to be really exciting. Even some of that lower stuff is great. We built another winery there as well, so there's 2 facilities. And we got no tenants in there right now. We had and moved on. That was part of the breakup with a lot of things. But I think there's the potential that we have there. We've got some people very interested, and COVID certainly done some interesting things. And we want to be sure we get the right partners. But I see that being a hub for young winemakers that because it is quite expensive, to make wine, and there's so many expenses to make it, and then to get the money back a couple of years after you've made it, and you spend, and then you keep spending money on the current year, and there's a lot. So I really see that being such a young entrepreneur kind of young people making great wines. Hopefully from the fruit that we farm, and everything's in-house, everything's close with great connection. So that's where I see that side of things. We've got a lot more development to go. I think we're going to plant another 5 acres in that, but I think in total we can get that vineyard to 70, 72, 73 acres or something like that. But right now it's also we're in no rush to plant that. We really want to do the right thing out there. We've got some talks of like a cool glass house up the top, or just no power, maybe some water, just something that's just a cool tasting room of some sort that people can use. And Rick and Erica, this is the epicenter, the Black Walnut. This is where they come to to relax and be with their current stressful jobs. And so I see huge potential in Witness Tree, and next year we'll start putting fruit on all those young vines that are now they grew pretty well this year. It's like whoa. So that's exciting to see. But it's going to be a good one.
You described to me that you kind of like went through and picked the fruit off in the morning and then tore the vines out in the afternoon on some of those. It must be an interesting process to do that kind of. That was funny because it was like there wasn't a lot of fruit. We finished harvest pretty quick,
So we literally, because we needed to rip and disc, we needed to pull everything out before the wet season came in. So, I can't remember, we probably picked that, first week of September, maybe August even, I think in 16, I can't remember. But we picked it, and then we with the tote trailers on the back, and then sent that into the winery, disconnected the trailers, put chains on the back of the, 2 chains on the back of the tractor, and then just pulled them out one by one. It was sad, like it really was, because great history behind the witness tree. As like many other places in Oregon that unfortunately has phylloxera. But it's also cool to put your fingerprint on something that's going to be new, and hope some little prick Australian doesn't rip yours out.
That's awesome. So obviously, a lot of things just getting started for you. Just started with the winemaking project here. You have Witness Tree kind of coming on board with fruit.
Yeah.
What do you see as you look ahead for yourself and for your various projects, say 5-10 years into the future? What are kind of your hopes for the next steps?
Geez, like so much has changed in 5-10 years already, and I think we're really lucky to have the inn here, and have that that personal connection, that experience. I really like. I think that's something to be said. I think there's we need to change ways to sell wine, and it's not we need people to come here to have these great experiences, whether you're with Chase in the kitchen, myself in the vineyard, and often Chase and I do all these things together. Mm-hmm. So I think that I really think that having more of a closer connection, and because we only make a small amount of wine, right? And I'm lucky enough to choose it from what I think the best vineyards, the best locations are. So of course with that, I want to increase our production. I want to get us to about that 1,000 case area. In 10 years, who knows what 10 years is going to, that's just, oh my God. I mean, I've only been here 11, I think now. But that is a very, very interesting way of having that, having guests already in your vineyard, and doing these and from vineyard tours and stuff like that. I think you see how COVID plans out and stuff like that, but I think there's room for entry level wines that we can share in restaurants, and I think that would be kind of cool. But it's I don't want to I hate using the word cult. I don't know if there is a cult for Oregon. I mean, there's some fantastic people and wineries and stuff like that, but I don't see that being an Oregon thing, because Oregonians are too nice, But I want to build up that loyalty. I want to, so people can come back here and experience and come back, bring friends, and so there's a lot to it. It's not just winemaking. It's not just vineyard anymore. It's a lot more to that, and I think COVID for sure has opened our eyes to a lot more different things, and ways to get around that, and ways to create loyalty, and I mean that's a hard. I mean I've had several conversations about like from millennials, which I guess I fall into that category, I guess, but I'm kind of an old school, I guess. But we're not really loyal, and we move on to the next thing too fast. And I think a big part of that is we just didn't get that. We didn't get that ingrained. We didn't get that proper experience and stuff like that. So like by meeting the chef and winemaking team and being sleeping here and waking up, and there's our ugly face. It's kind of cool. So that, and that's and generating that people will come back and know this will be a great, friendly, amazing place to get away to, and of course and showing our wines and selling our wines, and then for them to take those wines home, and we've got a lot of work to do on how to structurally do that. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot more to it now. I think a lot more, and even at 1,000 k's, I mean, you know, we build slow, and yeah.
You brought up COVID a couple of times. Obviously, we're still dealing with all the effects and a kind of an uncertain future. How has COVID affected business here and kind of your day-to-day life, and has it affected your view of the future at all?
I think you know, it's really sad. I mean, we're fortunate that this place is that the inn, you know, is Rick and Eric are just great people, and you know, they in fact, as all this happened and you know, we couldn't have any guests, you know, they still, you know, paid for you know, the kitchen team, cleaning team, and stuff like that, and that's so rare, right? So you know, I personally don't know the full extent and the hardship of what other people are going through, and I'm only dealing with a lot of my, you know, friends who are, and you know, you know, a lot of people, they're backing out from fruit. You know, they're preparing, maybe not for the worst, but they're trying to be safe. And how can you be safe? You know, it's hard to really figure out, because it's like the industry is, you know, okay, we pick in, you know, September, October. Well, the wine's not going to be released for another couple of years, so it's like really hard to forecast all this, right? And where it's going to go. You know, so I think it is really hard for a lot of the small guys, and that's why I probably got a really soft spot for trying to push like a small entrepreneur like kind of thing at Witness Tree, like young guys and girls, of course, to make their wines there in their small parcels, you know, have a beautiful tasting room, something like that's, you know, it's a destination. You know, I find, I mean, my previous job and that, there was a lot of restaurant sales, and gosh, you know, now what, you know, like, you know, and then the 3-tiered system in Oregon, the wine sales is just, I hope that changes, but gosh, it's like, alcohol is like it's such a strange, I don't understand it here in America. That's one thing I don't understand. It's like alcohol is forbidden, you know, we can't, it's so regulated. It's the most regulated thing in this world, in this country, I feel like. So, you know, I think, you know, doing different things, like we have to think so differently. I mean, so many people are doing, you know, the online, you know, winemaker to, you know, whatever, which is great. We've got to think differently like that, you know. That's why I feel, you know, doing stuff out here and is going to change. But, you know, we all got hit pretty hard in the inn, you know, there was no one here. But yeah, I mean, we'll see how hopefully this thing, you know, burns out soon. Gosh, it's really, really challenging, and I just you know, I just encourage like anyone to, you know, buy wines, buy straight direct, you know, like help, you know, yeah. So it's a hard one. It really is, and I don't know what the future is. I don't have that understanding of it yet to see. But you know, it's a good chance that there's going to be a lot of fruit in the market next year, and where's that going to go? So that's, you know, on that side, but because people got to protect themselves, and then for those who are decreasing significantly their volume because, you know, it's so expensive to make wine, you know, in a couple of years, like if all this is all sorted out, then, you know, it takes years to build that back up. And so, you know, hopefully there are going to be different avenues that we come up with creatively that, you know, increase more of a direct sale. So we, you know, capitalize on that, and hopefully more people come out here. Hopefully, you know, that's where you get those direct sales.
You mentioned a lot of the reasons that you were attracted to Oregon, and you also mentioned that there was a lot of potential and a lot of maybe undercapitalization here. I'm curious if that has changed since you started. What the differences in the industry are from your entry into it to now, and as you look ahead, what changes are coming?
Yeah, I mean, I have been really fortunate to work with people who can capitalize things. It took a lot of persuasion, I guess. And I'm not a persuasive guy, but I was like, if anything, I just get too angry. I'm like, you're kidding me, you know? You're crazy, you know? So you know, since the few companies that I worked with before, and to where we are now. In actual matter of fact, I actually bought the sprayer from Evening Land. So it's coming full circle again. We need to capitalize. There is a labor shortage. There is immigration issues, and that's another topic that I'm pretty sensitive about. But then we need to be better at our jobs. We need to like I said, we've got so much handwork in the vineyard, and whether that's even going to be available soon. We need to find people. It is interesting, like, because I've changed my mind a lot on how, like, so when I first started just farming vineyards, I was like, why aren't you spending more money in the vineyard? This is crazy, And it started making a little bit of wine. You need to spend money in the winery, stuff like that. And then you start working with marketing and stuff like that. He's like, that's where the money goes. But, we are in that spot. And Australia is such a great example because, like, we really, our minimum wage, gosh, I think now, to put anyone in is geez, I think it's 30 odd bucks an hour. Like, God knows what, tractor drivers and stuff like that. That's just, like, how do you put that farming costs and stuff like that, and still have the quality and still have all the pressures of what Oregon has, and try to make sense of it into a bottle that, and then you have that 3-tiered system, so it goes, it's a full circle thing there. But using better equipment is what we need, but also Oregon's hard. Like, I was with a guy today and they bought a German hedger, and it's broken down, and you can't even get any parts for 6-7 weeks, and it has to be shipped here. Like, we're too small, and so, but we need people, we need companies that we have things in stock to be able to, if we go this route of more technology and stuff like that. Because you break down and that's it. I'm fortunate enough that we can get by a great mechanic, Jorge and Rocky, and they're just amazing, best people. So smart. We doing that is vital, I think. I'm a big believer in I don't know if it's a secret because I don't know if I'm doing any good, but I'm a big believer in paying people really well. And sure, it's not my money, but I've been able to put that in front of and I've always been like that. That's because there's a problem in my mind of how things are treated, people were treated and stuff like that, and the potential like that we have, like our crew, my crew, I feel like is the best. I just sincerely just think they are the best, and they get paid really well, and the thing is that they'll do things so much faster and better than anyone else. So at the end of the day, but I understand when we're just selling grapes and stuff like that, there's hardly any money in this industry, so it's hard to do that. So there's kind of there's a double-edged sword there at some level. Trying to capitalize, trying to get better equipment and stuff like that, but you need better drivers. But you need to invest. You need to invest in your people, and that's a hard one for farming. I mean, I know that from oranges and that. I mean, geez, we nearly went broke. Like. In my home, we bulldozed 40% of our property to keep 60 alive. We didn't harvest, that's because of a drought and stuff like that. So I know the challenges that you have with that, but those are the issues I think that we have, but I think once we can get over that, I think we're going to be this can be really good. Really good, and hopefully we can produce wines that we need those expensive wines because I think they're worth it, to be honest, and we also need those entry-level wines, but we need to be able to do it financially affordable, and we got a lot of it, a lot of grapes.
Okay. So if someone were to come to you and say they were interested in getting into the Oregon wine industry, whether in a viticulture way or winemaking way or hospitality, what would your words of wisdom to them be?
Oh, gosh, I'm too young to have any wisdom. I need someone to give me wisdom. Be dedicated. Own it. Don't be a renter. Own it. There's, we work incredibly hard, probably too much. But I think maybe because now I have a little baby boy. I'm trying to find balance, and it's kind of. I feel that when you're in the vineyard and you feel good, this kind of sounds a bit crazy, and maybe this is biodynamics a little bit. But I feel that when you and the crew and everyone is feeling good, and you're balanced, and you're having your days off, and you're doing this, it reflects onto the grapes, and it's weird. I know this sounds kind of, but I kind of believe it. Well, I really do believe it. And so there is this element of working hard and owning it and being driven. Don't worry about anyone else. Don't worry. Help everyone you can, like as much as you can. Be connected. Own those vineyards. Own that. Understand those and try to figure it out. Don't be afraid of messing up. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be. If everyone's smart and they have enough. If you have that drive, you don't have to be smart. Shoot, look at me. But I think that's a big part of it. Is doing it, and don't think of don't think of just the vines, don't think of just the wines, think of the whole thing together with people, how to, you got to sell these wines, you got to own these wines, you got to make, it's got to be authentic. It's got to be like when we're sitting down and having, a glass of wine, and the idea is for you to buy the wine. I want you to know who I am. I want you to know the whole global thing, and don't think so limited. And I don't know. It's a hard question because I've got so much to learn myself. But I don't think I would have be sitting here today. For if I wasn't so driven and so competitive with myself. That's for sure. I sound like a crazy man now.
It's a lot of good advice for someone who doesn't have any good advice to give.
Oh, I don't know. It's a good area. It's beautiful.
One last question for you, and something you brought up a little bit earlier that I want to kind of expand on, a little philosophical for you. So you talked about what wine kind of means to you as like a way to talk about life. So is that, we like to ask what wine's role in a society is. Is that what wine's role in a society is to you? It's just kind of, wine's role in society?
I drink wines like that. I don't get me wrong, in the last couple of years, I've drinking more cocktails these days, probably because I needed them. But when I drink wines, I think it's, for me, it's, you can really see the personalities in there, you really, man, maybe that's why I got into this industry, because you can sort of see that final product, and you can see all the intricacies along the way, you know. Yeah, it's an interesting question. But I mean, you know, I think one of the problems that maybe we do is we analyze the wines too much. God, I remember I used to go on so many dinners and stuff like that, and we sit there and we swirl the damn glass, and you know, shit, I was like, oh yeah, well, you know. But that's not wine, you know, that's not, you know, I want to sit down and I want to drink a glass of wine with you and just talk, just family life, all the great things. That's what it's really meant for. And you know, that, yeah, gosh, I just had a flashback of like, when you just go into the whole, you just zone in on this wine, and then you finish the bottle, and then you just bagged it, but it was a fantastic bottle of wine. Oh, that sucks, you know. Drink it and you know, try to understand the story. I mean, that's really cool. And one of the great things in Pacific Northwest too is, and cooler climates, is that, you know, it's like the vintages are so different, and that's kind of cool in its own. Yeah, that's fun. It is really fun when you do that. That's what I love about the wine, and you know, and talking, you know, this wine is this, but not too much. Not too much. Just enjoy the bloody thing, and talk to your person that you're with, entertain and have fun. Is that kind of a
Perfect. So that's all the questions that we have for you. Is there anything I didn't ask that I should have? Anything we didn't cover today that we should have covered?
Gosh, no. I mean, I didn't know what to expect, but no. I think I've said it. I think it's very clear how much I believe in Oregon. You know, I mean, we moved everything. We sold our car. Like, we're like, shit, we don't have much money here. And we sold a car on the last day. My parents had to take the money and from the guy who bought it in Australia. You know, so we're all in, you know. God, I would never look back, you know. It is such a great, and the people were just fantastic. Like, it really is a special place in this world. And I think we've got so much more to go, and we can all learn a lot more and really take out a lot of this. I need to get this COVID thing out of the way. Jeez Louise. But it really is it's special. Yeah, I think yeah, I mean, gosh, and we could talk about immigration and stuff like that, but I don't want to.
Next time, right? Focus interview.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't let me go. Shit, lucky I've only got coffee here and not a whiskey sour.
So we're doing before noon, so it's more likely.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you never know. We've been up since like 3.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, for sharing your stories and your thoughts. We'll go ahead and let you off the hook.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate it.